It's always a good day for coffee, I'll tell you. I'm Kevin Thomas. Now, if you've been paying attention to this YouTube channel, you've heard me do some originals. And matter of fact, I wrote a new original earlier today. So once I kind of get that structured the way that I want to, then for sure I'll be posting that. And I've got a few other things to post. I've got some videos that I recorded earlier this week that I have yet to post. So I'll get to that eventually. But first things first, I hope you're having a great day. I hope this video finds you in some semblance of peace. And if you're not feeling that now, I hope that at some point during this God-given day that you do. So here's what I'm going to talk about here. See, normally I don't post content like this. Like I said, it's normally songs. I do my originals. I'll post them, or I'll post covers of songs that I've always dug. And I wanted to offer something else to the page, and you'll see this, I'm sure, on my Instagram and Facebook or whatever else. But here's the crux of it. All right. So I have always had a problem with labeling music genres, you know, because I've always found that, growing up, I listened to a lot of different music. So, like my dad, my parents are actually from Guyana in South America, and they came over to this country in the '70s, and they've been here ever since. And so they brought with them some incredible music that they listened to through the years. So whether it was Motown songs or country songs or what have you, whether it was reggae or calypso or soca music, like uh, my parents are huge fans of the Mighty Sparrow. Who's still alive today, and God bless him. He's he's made a whole genre of music happen under his watch. Um, I remember my dad grew up when I was growing up, my dad listened to Jim Reeves. He was a big Jim Reeves fan. In fact, I think, because this was the '80s that I'm talking about, but I think I remember he had 8 tracks, and one of them was Jim Reeves' 8 track. Um, Never got to play it because from what I remember as a kid, I don't remember us having an 8 track player around, but we always had these 8 tracks laying around. Um, and then I remember, one day growing up, that we used to, for a really short time, it might have been like a year or something like that, in Brooklyn. I remember we had this station called WYNY, and it was a country station. And I remember the first time that I turned to that station, the very first song that I heard out of the commercial break was John Conlee's Common Man. And I remember listening to that and hearing that line, let me drive us to McDonald's and I'll talk to you concerning something you should really know. And I remember hearing that as a kid, thinking McDonald's, like, I like McDonald's too. All right, right on. And it's funny because, like, I mean, Brooklyn at that time, I mean, hip hop was starting to grow from being this underground thing to, I mean, now it's everywhere and it's influencing everything. But I remember back in those days, you know, my dad had knew that I loved radio. And so, like, one time he bought me a Grundig shortwave radio. It was about that big. Had some buttons on the front and antenna, and you can either flip through the dial just however, or you can punch in, like, it came with a guidebook, and you can punch in particular codes, I guess, call numbers to access stations from all over the world. I mean, from that shortwave radio, you can listen to stations in Australia while you're in New York. I remember one day I turned it on, And I was like, well, oh, okay, Poland. I wonder what that sounds like. So I punched in the call numbers on the shortwave radio, and the station comes up, and it's a language I don't understand. It was Polish, and they were doing it was a Polish rapper. I don't even know what the name of the rapper was, but I remember thinking, wow, this is insane. Like, you know, New York is the birthplace of hip hop, and here's a station in Poland that somebody's doing hip hop in Polish. And I remember just being so blown away by that. What was cool at that time was, I mean, that was, like back in the day, I mean, I remember we had like a Commodore 64 computer and the internet was dial up. It was real slow, you know? So it's like, even before all that, this was sort of my avenue to realizing that the world was a lot bigger than Bed-Stuy or Bushwick or Brooklyn or the city. Um, it opened the door to me discovering so many different things. I remember back in Brooklyn at that time. I remember, especially in the late '80s, what was big was video music box, and it was this Ralph. I think it was Ralph McDaniels was the name of the host, and it was one of the coolest shows ever because what you'd literally do is you would call a number, you would punch in a code for whatever video you wanted to watch, and they would show you the codes on the screen, and you punch in the code, and then a few minutes later, once they got through their queue, they would play that video. And I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. And um, I remember, there were so many hip hop acts that were launched, especially in the city, from people seeing that sort of thing. Now, maybe I'm remembering Video Music Box wrong, but I could have sworn that's how it was. But I thought it was the coolest thing because I remember seeing this little snippet of a video, and this might have been early '90s by that time, but I remember seeing this little snippet of a music video from some band called Sunvolt, and I was like, who's this? But I dug the sound; it sounded pretty good. So then I punched in the code, video comes up, and I'm just blown away by how awesome this song sounds. By then I had already made a journey musically, listening to the pop music of the day, listening to hip hop music, what we would now consider old school hip hop. I am old school. I am old. Period. But I also remember, rock music being what it was. Like I remember seeing the music video of Aerosmith and Run DMC and the breaking down of the wall. Uh, Steven Tyler using his mic stand to break down the wall, sticking his head through it. Walk this way, talk this way. Just awesome stuff. And back then, we had encyclopedias. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you could just go online and look up Wikipedia. But I would start getting all these music books, and I would start looking back on the history of some bands, and that's how I ended up finding out. Like for example, I remember Don Henley was huge back in the '90s as his solo career, and Glenn Fry was huge in his solo career, and I never knew, because I was born after their '70s run. I never knew they were in a band together, and then learning that, I was able to discover, that Linda Ronstadt was instrumental in sort of, giving her blessing and putting those band members together. And eventually they went out and did what they did. And then eventually I'm discovering Graham Parsons, and I'm discovering the Byrds and Buffalo Springfield and Crosby, Stills and Nash and Sometimes Young. I mean, it's amazing how much music there is out there to learn and listen to and get something from. And here I am, this black kid from Brooklyn, New York, that I got to tell you too, a lot of that hip hop from back then. if you think about it, the turntables, the records they were playing, I mean, they weren't just sampling, James Brown stuff. Like, you can listen to Das Effects, and you hear James Brown, in the background. They want effects, um, the JBs, you know what I mean? Just James Brown, God bless him. JBs, God bless him. They were sampling rock stuff as well, and so bridging that gap and realizing that just because the instrument doesn't have strings, you know you can use a turntable, you can use a computer to create something that's so sonically awesome, and yet either matches the feeling of the lyrics or it juxtaposes the feeling of those lyrics. I guess what I'm getting at with this whole video is basically I hate labeling music. I hate it. I hate it with a passion. I'll tell you why. To me, it and it really is because of the way the industry is set up. You know, whether it's through streaming services or radio, whether it's through the major labels or the commercials you'll see on TV or the stories that are covered. Mainstream, they have cookie cutter molds, and they take an artist, and if they can't fit them into that mold, then it's like, well, what do we do with this? And it's usually the mavericks that come along and say, you know what, this person doesn't fit into a particular mold, and that's perfect for us. And they're the ones that end up pushing the envelope further and further. Like, you think of Rick Rubin even deciding to work with Johnny Cash, and wanting him to do things a little differently. Um, you think of artists like Willie Nelson, and you see, from the time that he was putting music out, writing songs for other artists and putting his own music out, you see how many years it took for him to really hit it big. That he went to Nashville and he didn't fit into the motifs, the molds that Nashville had at the time. He ends up going to Austin, and he tried the approach of going to the town where everybody was, and it didn't work because he was his own unique artist. He was meant to be his own unique artist. And he goes back to Austin and he plays in the same place, and eventually the people come to him. And then the word of mouth spreads. And then people are discovering this music that, even if their skin color doesn't match his, they're like, you know what? I'm down with this because I connect with it in some way. You know, I remember Bob Dylan in an interview years ago, and I'm paraphrasing it. He had said that hip hop was like the CNN of the ghetto. It was the CNN of urban life. You know, it took people looking beyond their neighborhood of comfort, and stretching beyond that and saying, this is possible. Like, I've seen comments from people, even young people today, that they may have heard a Cult of Personality and didn't realize until they saw the music video that Living Color was black. The whole band was black. You know, when I think of a song like and I'm drawing a blank right now, but there was that guy that we lost earlier this year, that uh, did that song. Caldwell, I think was his name. Bobby Caldwell did. What you won't do for love. You tried everything. I'll tell you, when I heard that song, I didn't. When I first heard that song growing up, I didn't think of color. I was just like, this is an awesome song. And I guess because of all the music that I had listened to, because I was open to so much stuff, whether it was country or blues or jazz or classical or rock music or metal or hard rock or alternative or hip hop or R&B or soul or whatever it was. I wanted to listen to everything because I realized early on that music has no color. no color whatsoever, that you can make music however you want to make it, and at the same time honor your roots by showing those with the same roots or similar roots that this is an avenue that they can take if they want to. That if they feel it in their heart, they can take it to that level. They can take it down that road. It may be a road that, like for example, for me, for a black artist, seeing Living Color up on stage rocking the way they were, that to me was awesome. Seeing Lenny Kravitz, seeing Jimi Hendrix videos, um, you know, um, Bill Withers. Bill Withers was huge in my life. His music meant so much to me, not just because it was really well crafted music, but because he was black doing that music. Richie Havens, black man doing that music and fitting right in with the rest of that music. You know, that's my problem with genres, with labeling music, with saying, like some people might say, well, I only listen to hip hop. I don't need to listen to anything else. And I almost get this sense like people think if you listen to something else, then their friends or their family might judge them for listening to something other than what they're used to, that even trying to open your mind to the possibilities of sound, the possibilities of connection, um, is almost in a sense degrading your own roots or forgetting where you came from, that sort of thing. At times, I've had people, literally say to me, like, how are you listening to country music? How are you listening to Leonard Skinner? You're black. Without realizing that if you look at the story of Ronnie Van Zant wasn't racist. You know what I mean? Like that dude was down with everybody. He was cool, but people saw the Confederate flag as being used at Leonard Skinner concerts, and they immediately associated the two together. Even though the members of the band, I mean, even when you listen to a ballad of Curtis Lowe, that's Ronnie telling you that some of those musical influences that he had came from someone who was black in his neighborhood down in Florida. You know what I mean? Like Elvis, they used to talk about Elvis, borrowing black man's music and reappropriating it, but I don't think that was necessarily just Elvis. I think that was just the industry at the time. They did the same thing with Pat Boone. They would take black artist music and then give it another audience. Um, that was just the times. But if you think about it, there are so many ways to be influenced by the music around you. I mean, think about white kids from England listening to Leadbelly or listening to anything that Willie Dixon wrote down, Howlin' Wolf, and how celebrated, Howlin' Wolf back then could go do a show in the UK and be so celebrated. In fact, he would probably be better treated over there than he was in his own country. And then the interesting thing is that when you talk about bands like the Kinks or the Beatles or whatnot, they were influenced by that stuff. I mean, like skiffle came from something, you know what I mean? uh Blues came from something. Country music, I was criticized years ago for even listening to country music because it's like, well, there's no real black people in it. And it's like, well, even from the early days of the Grand Ole Opry, there was a black artist that was accepted. And then, as time went on, I mean, sentiment was what it was in this country. It was part of the history. And then eventually he was welcomed back. You had Charlie Pride. They had to release his records without showing his face. And then when he actually went to do shows, the audiences were shocked. But then, I think what was cool about Charlie Pride was that he made a joke about the whole thing, and it seemed to lighten the audience up. And then he got into doing his singing, and people in the audience are like, "Man, this guy is country." I think of Darius Rucker. Darius Rucker is one of my heroes because you can tell he was influenced by a lot of different things, whether it's country music, whether Nancy Griffith and sort of the folk singer songwriter type stuff, or rock and roll or rock music. He was influenced by a lot of things, but especially gospel, and you felt the soul in everything that he was doing. Even back with Hootie and the Blowfish, and now you're seeing him in the country genre doing his thing. Reese Palmer is country through and through. Even if the industry itself is messed up and doesn't want to recognize her roots, those are her roots. And she puts it through in song, and she does it beautifully. Reese Palmer is definitely one of my favorites for sure. Mickey Guyton, another one that I think is done so much for country music, and you're seeing the fruits of that labor. That people are becoming more accepting of artists that don't necessarily follow the mold that the record labels and the radio stations and the industry try to push. So out of all of this, it's basically to say music has no color, and to me music has no definitive label. For every person, you have music you connect to and music that you don't connect to. I guess what I worry about with genre labeling is that people will be so tribalistic about following, whatever they think the label um, says about them, or says about their race, or says about their people, or says about their family or their friends. And they're so worried about the possibility of listening to something that might bring them some level of criticism, or make them feel like somehow they don't support who they should. I think part of the reason why God made it so that my mind was open to just listening to anything, even if I listened to something and I didn't connect with it, I at least respected it. But I think part of it is that, honestly, I don't like being tribalistic about music, because I don't think any art should be. I think you should be able to look at it as an individual and draw something from it. But if you go beyond that, and it's sort of like, well, I can't listen to that, or I don't think I'd connect with that. Well, how would you know if you don't listen to it? How would you? I mean, even Spotify, in the app, you can pull up the lyrics. Like, look at what they're saying. Why should it matter if they have a pedal steel or a fiddle, or uh, whatever in it? Why should it matter that someone has twang in their voice, or someone's deep and brooding in their voice, or whatever? It's funny. I mean, everybody connects with something in music. I guess what I'm saying is, whatever your musical taste is, it's cool with me. Like some people listen to my music and they're not into it, and that's fine. You can't please everyone. But I guess what I'm saying is, if there is a reason other than not connecting with the music that prevents you from listening to a song, or listening to a particular genre, give that genre a chance. Listen to something that you absolutely positively would not have given a chance to before. Because I think you'd be really surprised to see just how connected we all are in certain respects. Now, I mean, there's some respects as a man that, you know, some people might not understand. There's some respects as a woman that, some people will not understand because they're not women. I'm not a woman. I can't, know what it's like to be a woman. When you're a person of color, there's experiences that I will have that other people might not have. But there are some things that connect us all. Like, you could listen to a song that talks about, how broke you are, or how many bad breaks you've had in your life. And there are songs in just about every genre that says that. So I guess with this long rambling video and whatnot. I mean, think of Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson, is considered country music, but to me, even the way that he delivers his vocal, the way that he plays his guitar, it tells me that he has a lot of jazz influences going on there. Just like Darius Rucker has a lot of gospel, uh, stuff going on there. Aretha Franklin, started off in the church. Um, there are, you know, regardless of how the story starts and ends, I think there'll always be things that sort of bridge us together, where roads merge and diverge and merge and diverge, or merge and diverge and never meet again. But I would say, if you could do me a favor, go find some music that you would have never thought twice to listen to. Now, and I'm not just talking about one band or one song from one band. Like, really give it a shot and try something that you've never tried before when it comes to music listening. If you're the type of person that will listen to everything, that's me. That's what I'm down with. But if you're the type of person that, for some societal reason, or for some social reason, or for some political reason, you don't want to listen to particular artists, I mean, you're going to do what you're going to do. But to me, I think, you know don't just depend on listening to one genre because you think that genre is the only genre you could connect with. Because what I found in my musical journey is that there's music from all sorts of genres that I connect with. And that's why I don't like really talking about music in terms of, this is country or this is blues or this is folk. Like when people ask me, oh, what kind of music do you do? It's like, you got to listen to it. I don't want to tell you this, that, or the other, because I'm afraid if you hear a genre title that you don't usually listen to, that would be enough for you to completely disqualify even listening to it. You know what I mean? And I really do praise the artists that test the boundaries, the Janelle Monáe's, the Lady Gaga's, the Kendrick Lamar's, that aren't just looking to fit in a mold, but they're looking to branch out and bring something else to the table. Andre 3000, that new album, Andre, is outstanding. Listen to the whole thing. Listen to the whole thing again. And I'll tell you, the guy is one of the greatest MCs of all time, and yet he shows that your musical abilities can go beyond what people are used to from you. Like, I love the fact that Lizzo can sing, can write songs, and then can play this amazing flute. I love the fact that Nora Jones can write songs and plays just a tremendous piano. I love artists that test the waters. And so go out there, listen, take today. Today is the day, because no one's promised tomorrow. Yeah. So take today and try out some music that you have never tried before. And you know what? Maybe you'll still not like it, but at least you gave it a shot. And you could surprise yourself. It could end up being a song that invites you in to a whole world that you didn't realize existed. And furthermore, it could open you up to the possibility that we are a lot more connected in some ways than you really realize. That's what I've learned. So that's my piece. And I say peace. God bless. And I'll see you around. Look out for more posts. Oh, and by the way, this Saturday, December 23rd, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., I will be at the Art Cafe in Nyack, playing originals, playing covers, and maybe even playing Christmas songs. I mean, it is 2 days before Christmas there. So look out for that. And of course, you can catch my story and my songs on kevinthomasmusic.me. God bless and peace.